절대 쉽게
First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of the way that things have been. Ooh, the way that things have been. Oh.
샘마에 나온다.
Second thing, second, don't you tell me what you
물건
think
대체
that
뭐냐고!
I could be. I'm the one at the sail, I'm the master of my sea. Oh. Ooh, the master of my sea. Oh.
약을 나눠 먹는 데는 여러 가지 방법이 있어.
I was broken from a young age, taking my soak into the masses, writing my poems for the few that look at me, took to me, shook at me, feeling me, singing from heartache, from the pain, taking my message from the veins, speaking my lesson from the brain, seeing the beauty through the.
사랑이가 가져오라는 거 정말 진짜 고마워.
고맙다 소리 하지 말라고.
어머, 진짜 잤어?
친구라면서 그렇게 말해도 되는 거야?
Your spirit up above. Last days last by the grace of the fire and the flames. You're the face of the future, the blood in my veins. Oh, ooh, the blood in my veins. Oh, but they never did ever live, ebbing and flowing, inhibited, limited till it broke up when it rained down.